Hey everyone, it's Leon. A little bit ago, I wrote a blog on getting started with Traceroute in Catchpoint, which was just a simple step-by-step how to create a Traceroute test in the Catchpoint platform. And I know that lots of people learn in very different ways. Some people are more visual learners, and some people learn and retain better if they just can read it on a page. So I wanted to take that same content and put it into a video and show you what it looks like in case my words didn't make a whole lot of sense to you. So that's what we're doing today. There are lots of reasons to use Traceroute. There's lots of things you get out of Traceroute. There's lots of history behind Traceroute. I'm talking about none of that. I'm literally just going into the portal and showing you how to set up a particular test. That's it. So let's get started. So here I am in the portal. You can see I have a blank account right now. I don't have a whole lot set up. And the way you get to any test is by going over to the sidebar here and click Control Center. And I'm not going to get too much into the products or the folders or the groupings or whatever you want to call it. I have one. I called it website. You can call it banana. You can call it anything. But that's where you put your tests. I just have a couple in here. We're ignoring those. I'm just going to create a new test. And this takes me to the area where I create all of my tests. Now we have them roughly grouped into just tests and also endpoints and some RUM stuff and tracing in a library. But really, the thing that you're looking for, again, we're focusing on setting up a test for Traceroute, is going down, and you can see SMTP, ping, and Traceroute. Now, there's a few different choices for Traceroute. And again, I'm not getting into the differences between in-session and TCP and ICMP. There are some nuances to it, but for the most part, setting it up looks about the same. I'm going to do a TCP test. Click on that. And in the name of simplicity, let's get the most important things done. I'm going to give it a name. We're going to call it Traceroute test number 2, because it is Traceroute test number 2. I don't need to give it a description. If I picked the wrong kind of Traceroute, I can change it from here. So that's kind of nice to know that I haven't committed myself. And the test location. What do I want to test? Well, I would like to test www.catchpoint.com. Yay! Because it's Catchpoint. Now, at this point, I can hit save and it is done. Like literally, that's all you needed. You didn't have to put any other specific information in there. If you're looking for the absolutely simple steps, that's it. However, there's a lot of other stuff on the screen, and I think it's worth taking a minute to talk about what those things mean. So I'm going to go back in. This is how you edit any test. There we go. Takes me right back to where I was. And let's keep on walking through. Well, obviously, status is active. You can make things inactive. You can, be testing something or take it offline or what have you. Also, the run from. If you have a test that you don't want to run in perpetuity, you just want it to run for a particular time. Today is the start date. We don't have a TARDIS. You can't go back in time. But you can set an end date and an end hour and minute, and you can also identify what time zone that start and finish is going to occur in. Indexes. Indexes are a big topic. Briefly speaking, you can group different tests, not just a bunch of Traceroute, but a Traceroute and an API test and whatever, using an index, and that way all the information can be grouped or displayed or compared together. So that's what the index means. Then you want labels. Again, another way of grouping and sorting. You can basically, if you want to call it tagging, that's what labels are for. And test data webhook. This is how you can pull the data out using an API. If you enable this, there's another place where you get your API key and you can pull this data out without having to log into the portal. Thresholds. Right now, it's going to show critical at 400 milliseconds. It's going to show warning at 100 milliseconds. I could also do it at a percent availability. I could say it's critical if it is more than 30% available, and it's warning if it's more than other way around. I want to know if it's critical if it's below 80%, and I want to know its warning if it's below 90%. And it's important to get those numbers straight. I still confuse them sometimes. It's not a big deal. No one's going to point and laugh, but you want the warning to be worse than the sorry, you want the critical to be worse than the warning. For milliseconds, that means the number is bigger. For the percent availability, it means that the critical is smaller. But again, if you get it wrong, you can see that if I try to set the warning at 70, I will not be able to save this. It's not going to let me do that. Let me set this at 90 just for fun. So advanced settings. This also takes me to these buttons for inherit and override. There's a place where you can set your defaults. What these radio buttons mean is that you can override the inherited or the default value. So you'll see that if I click on override, I can override the advanced settings. There are none right now. So I can add an advanced setting of some kind. So I can add, and that's going to be specific to the type of test, but I can set some of these, specific ones if I want to. I'm not going to here because, again, I'm just really going through this for the first time. I don't want to get so deep in the weeds. So I'm just going to inherit the advanced settings. Same thing with targeting and scheduling. I can inherit or override. So I'm going to override it. What nodes do you want to run this test from? Right now, it's going to run from a single node, which is basically my node. It's the default node. It's actually running in my house. Instead, I can actually go and pick from a whole bunch of other places anywhere around the globe. Catchpoint will tell you a lot that we have over 3,000 nodes or agents around, and you can specify the location. You can specify which ISP you want to run from. You can specify specific node names. In this case, I'm going to pick another location in Ohio. There we go, Columbus. Oh, I have 2 in Columbus, so I'm going to pick 2. Now I'm running this test from 3 different locations, which allows me to triangulate. You can specify as many or as few. The next part is the frequency, how often, does it want to run on all nodes or do you want to run it on a subset of nodes? You can say run on, every time you run the test, only run on 2 out of the 10, 3 out of the 30, and it will pick 3 nodes out of the bunch instead of running the test from a bunch. So you can have it running tests from multiple locations, but it doesn't have to run the test on every node every time. Also, how often is it going to run? 6 hours is the default. You can run it as few or as infrequently as every day, every 24 hours, or you can run it as frequently as every 15 minutes. You can also specify the node distribution. Is it randomly picking the nodes that it's going to do, or is it concurrently, meaning it's going to run it every 15 minutes, but it's going to randomly pick which one it does and then try to not do it at the same time, or you want it to run at the same time every time because you want to know that the test failed at that same minute. There's different reasons to do either one of those. You can also set a schedule. Okay, right now there's no schedule set, but you can actually create a schedule and then run it on that schedule rather than just, every 15 minutes. You also can specify a maintenance schedule. So during that maintenance schedule, this particular alert will not run in that window and obviously will also not trigger alerts or anything like that. And that's the targeting and scheduling. Finally, there are alerts. Now this is special to alerts. You can inherit from the default, you can override the default, or you can inherit and add to the default. So if you override, you're going to be able to just put all new stuff in here. Inherit and add means that it's going to use the default unless you change something there. So here we're going to say that the recipient is going to be me, because that's different than the default, which is me. But okay, fine. There's also different variables or macros or whatever you want, shortcuts, whatever you want to call them, that you can put into the subject line. And so there's a whole list of those. That link is in the blog. I'm not going to jump over to there. It's a whole bunch of them that can show you all sorts of different pieces of information in the subject line. API endpoints. Again, you can take the alert information and push to an API. There's a list. I don't have any, but you can actually push that information out. You can also create alert conditions. This takes you all the way over to the alert scenario. And again, for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to talk about alerts here, but this is where you could set up specific conditions and timeframes and all of that for the alert rather than using the default elements that are here. So you can actually override, or again, inherit and override all of that. So that goes over the simplest, shortest steps to get a traceroute test set up. However, there's a lot of people who may be thinking, well, that's nice, and I probably could have figured that out myself, but what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? What can I do with this test? So again, I'm not going to go over every single aspect of Catchpoint and the portal and all of the reports and alerts and stuff like that, but I do want to show you a few quick things you can do in Catchpoint. So let's go back into the screen and take a look at what we can do there. We're back, editing the test. I've reversed out all the changes I made because some of them were kind of a mess. But there's a few things I want to point out. A lot of so I'm going to start from right to left. Okay, so you can export this so you can use it either in a different system. Maybe you have a test system and a production system, or you can share with other people, or you just want to have a backup. You can export things. You can also look at the changelog. What did you do? You can create an instant test out of here. I'm not even getting into it. You can move this test to different folders or properties that you want to do. The smartboard, though, is where you spend a lot of time, and I'm not going to waste any more time just babbling. Now, here's the thing. This has been running for like a hot minute. So I have exactly one data point going. There it is, right there. That's the data point. So you're not going to see a lot of, fancy things here. The thing to understand here is that a smartboard gives you a lot of information right up front with very little modification or twiddling that you have to do. So you've got your percent downtime, network metrics, whether it's in milliseconds or percent, and then you have some other tabs. But in order to really see what this looks like, I want to switch over to a different test I've had running for a few days now, which is this one. Just going to hit smartboard. It comes right back up. Now I can even extend this out from the last 6 hours to, the last 3 days. And you can see I've got a good run of information here. So again, I've got a run. This is a very consistent traceroute. There's not a lot of errors. Nothing has gone up or down. So I don't have a lot to show for this, but you can see the kinds of information you're able to pull. For example, the network information that I've got, I can see where I'm, running this traceroute from, just this one node. It's heading out to these IP addresses. And what I can see at the bottom is I actually get a Sankey diagram of where the traffic is going through. It's going through the AT&T router. It's going through Cloudflare to 2 different target IP addresses that it sort of load balances across. Again, not a particularly sophisticated traceroute. The point isn't for me to show you the most complicated thing on earth, just to let you see that that's what's going on. You can even get routing information. However, I'm not doing BGP tests on this, and therefore that's not there. That's a separate test. And so there are some things that will be available if you enable a BGP test. It's not here, though. But that's only the first smartboard option you get. If I go back to my test environment, I can drop down the smartboard and say, well, I don't want to see the performance, which is the default. I want to see a scatter plot. The scatter plot gives me the ability to really become very granular about things like the time frame, the visualization that I use, the dimensions that it's breaking on, and all of that. Again, I'm not going to go into every single little thing. There's a separate Getting Started with Smartboards that will go into every detail. For now, I just wanted you to know that these things are available. Now, obviously, there's even more you can do once you're collecting the data. You can take this information that you saw on the smartboard and create a specific chart or element and put it into an overall dashboard with lots of other elements. You can create more sophisticated alerts. You can connect it to API webhooks that take actions based on thresholds. You can do all sorts of things with this data because that's the power of monitoring. For today, I just wanted to get you started and show you how easy it was to get a traceroute test set up and running. Until next time, I'm Leon Adato.